Behind Malaysia's shiny pillars of progress stands her staunchest symbol of tradition. One of Asia's fastest developing nations is home to the world's highest concentration of constitutional monarchs.
We are the only country that practice rotating monarchy, where all the 9 rulers from 9 states will get their chance to be the king of Malaysia.
Though many nations maintain monarchies, never before has a ruler come to the same throne twice. And nowhere else could this happen but Malaysia.
Beta akan bersungguh-sungguh menjalan dan melaksanakan tugas-tugas yang berat yang telah diletakkan di atas bahu Beta sebagai Yang di-Pertuan Agong.
From the pinnacles of the highest peaks, across currents rich with the majesty of culture, Tuanku Abdul Halim's return as king again 4 decades on reveals a fascinating portrait of an incredibly diverse nation tied together with a unique royal identity.
It speaks to the power of the symbolism of the monarch. It's the backbone of the nation. You can't see it, it's inside, but take it away and you're in trouble.
Daulat Tuanku! Daulat Tuanku!
Malaysia's brand new national palace, Istana Negara, Kuala Lumpur. Rehearsals are well underway for the official installation ceremony of Malaysia's 14th king, or Yang di-Pertuan Agong.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Sistem yang kita ada sekarang ini adalah satu sistem yang relevan kerana kita dapat nampak bagaimana fungsi dan juga peranan institusi diraja itu dapat memberikan seolah-olah satu pemusatan kuasa penghormatan rakyat. Itu sebabnya kita keluar dengan banyak perumpamaan. Contohnya raja sebagai payung negara. Ada filosofi di sebalik penyataan itu. Raja sebagai payung negara, tempat rakyat menumpang teduh. Daulat Tuanku. Daulat Tuanku. Daulat Tuanku. Alhamdulillah.
This event is particularly special for Tunku Putri, or Princess Intan Safinas, because it sees the return of her father, Tuanku Abdul Halim from Kedah, 4 decades after His Majesty was first installed as federal head of state for 5 years.
Well, the possibility of His Majesty becoming king again, I had, honestly, mixed feelings, primarily because His Majesty will be away from home. It is a tremendously responsible role. It has with it a great deal of pressure and personal sacrifice.
When colonial Malaya achieved independence from Britain in 1957, 9 traditional monarchies emerged and established a unique system of power sharing, giving each a fixed term as constitutional ruler of the nation. 1963 saw Malaya join a bigger federation, including the newly independent territories of Sabah and Sarawak, which continue to drive the great diversity that makes Malaysia today. His Majesty hails from Kedah, the earliest sultanate in the country. The tranquil surroundings of Istana Anak Bukit in Alor is where His Majesty was born over 80 years ago. Anak Bukit continues to be Tuanku Abdul Halim's sanctuary, harboring his formative experiences, where he raised his children, as well as where he's nurtured an extended family of sorts in the palace grounds. His Majesty's love for wildlife is legendary. As Sultan of a state blessed with some of Malaysia's oldest rainforests, he's cared for quite a collection of colourful creatures, which he will undoubtedly miss with his new calling in Kuala Lumpur. The banquet hall of Istana Anak Bukit welcomes guests for a celebration of their own Sultan's recent election as king of the country for the second time. A particularly proud moment for members of the Kedah royal family, as their patriarch carries the unique traditions and identity of their state to the federal capital again.
When each ruler comes to occupy the position of Yang Di-Pertuan Agong, in terms of the ceremony, in terms of the regalia, they bring a heritage undoubtedly from their own state. The muscat, the dress of the Yang Di-Pertuan Agong comes from Kedah. Every time an Agong is installed, you have the presence of the nobat. I mean, the nobat originated in Kedah.
Tucked away at the top of a historic tower in Alostar, members of Kedah's Royal Orchestra, the Nobat, practice for their performance at the installation in Kuala Lumpur.
Oh, susah. Training saya dulu 8 bulan baru saya boleh dapat suara. Tapi dalam masa yang sama dia nak dapat suara tu, dapat tu boleh tune lah. Boleh perbetul suara tu.
Exclusive to the ruler, members of the group represent a 400-year-old unbroken line of tradition.
Minat ni dia ikut ni lah, keturunan lah, turun-temurun daripada satu generasi ke generasi. Macam saya ni, bapak saya dulu, arwah bapak saya dulu main sunai. Jadi saya pun kena main sunai juga lah.
The Nobat's unique sounds signal His Majesty's presence and accompany his ascension to the throne.
Kita ada signal, akan ada orang beritahu ke kita, okey, tunggu sampai kat sini. Okey, alatan dia sampai kat sini. Bila sampai dekat sini, nobat akan dipalu. Ada signal akan beritahu kepada kami. Bila ada istiadatnya, adalah nobat.
Tuanku Abdul Halim's second installation as Yang Di-Pertuan Agong, or King, with all its rituals and customs, will soon play out against the backdrop of a thriving nation that continues to celebrate its rich traditions and diversity as it drives forward into the future. Tropical storm clouds roll in over Kuala Lumpur. But at the country's national palace, Istana Negara, the troops are determined to brave the elements and carry on with the official installation of the nation's 14th king. Heads of government representing Malaysia's 13 states, including the sultans who form the backbone of the country's unique system of constitutional monarchy, have come in from all over the country to witness this milestone moment that sees for the first time the reappointment of a brother ruler to the paramount position as Yang Di-Pertuan Agong, or King of the Federation. As the longest-serving monarch in the country, Tuanku Abdul Halim has weathered many storms. His Majesty's return to the federal throne 4 decades after his first 5-year term as king is perhaps fortuitously fitting for the fact that he hails from the earliest sultanate of the land, Kedah. Kedah greets the Indian Ocean and the Andaman Sea with the legendary islands of Langkawi. History's more famous maritime hubs, Penang, Singapore and even Malacca, were preceded by entreports on the coast of Kedah by hundreds of years.
Civilization first started in Kedah, through the river, through the areas of Lemah Bujang and Gunung Jerai. We have had traders in Kedah from 1,500 years ago, from India, from China, from the Arab countries, from the Middle East.
While her father, the Sultan of Kedah, prepares to step into His Majesty's new role as king in the federal capital, Tunku Putri Intan Safinas steps up to take on more responsibilities in their home state. Today, that means visiting coastal communities of Kedah's estuaries. All Malaysia's royal states carry traditional names with symbolic qualities of the land, like the abode of faith or the abode of sincerity. Kedah is known as Darul Aman, the abode of peace.
The abode of peace, the title, the phrase itself, is not a new phrase. In the Hikayat Marong Mahawangsa, which is the sort of one of the oldest texts that we have that talks about the history of Kedah, it talks about the importance of living together, that people could work, thrive, live, trade within a peaceful environment.
Keeping the peace has been the traditional domain of the royal family for centuries, and Kedah has the longest unbroken bloodline of Malay rulers. In the royal burial grounds of Langgar, another member of the family, Tunku Taufik Mansur, was inspired to dig deeper into his genealogy.
When my father passed away, I started to become curious. So I went exploring around looking for graves of my ancestors, and it just started to get more and more intriguing the more I found out.
What began as a curious search of his family tree led Tunku Taufik on a journey across the state, drawing him further back in time into the valley that is today recognized as Malaysia's richest archaeological site. Kedah was the seat of pre-Islamic kingdoms dating back more than a millennium. The remains of ancient civilizations that once populated Kedah's Bujang Valley include some of the earliest man-made structures in Southeast Asia.
In the days when seafaring was considered quite treacherous, Gunung Jerai, which is right in front of us right now, could be the navigational point of travelers coming to and from India. This would have been a life-saving beacon to a huge number of people coming and going. I've been doing a lot of production design and art directing for the local film industry. There are an unbelievable amount of really interesting historical events that happened in Kedah that could be made into the most amazing stories based on fact.
These ruins have inspired Tunku Taufik to imagine what this area might have looked like during the reign of Kedah's first royal ruler, known in popular folklore as Marong Mahawangsa.
He would have fully understood the wealth of taxation from goods traveling back and forth along a certain route. And he saw that the Malays in Kedah were missing out on this great wealth. He was elected to be the ruler, and he then hence started the taxation of the trans-peninsular trade route from Langkasuka to Merbok. That's where Kedah got her first ruler and the origin of my very long family lineage.
Beginning in the 7th century, Kedar's long line of rulers include Muzaffar Shah I, who embraced Islam in 1136, signifying the first Malay Sultanate, which continues unbroken all the way up to Tunku Abdul Halim. His Majesty has been Sultan of his state since 1958, even before the formation of Malaysia, which he went on to serve as Agong or King for 5 years in the early 1970s.